Welcome back to Real Estate Without Borders. It's just me and Dave today. I feel like it's been a while. We've had a ton of guests. We got a couple more coming up as well, which is cool. I love learning about how things work in other places in the world. But just Dave and I today, we're going to be talking about the cities on Earth with the largest working age populations. It's a list that kind of surprised me. I mean, the top you would expect, like it's obviously very relative to what countries on Earth have lots of people. But yeah, we've seen this rapid urbanization of people around the world, and so I think it's important and relevant for people who want to trade and invest in real estate globally to understand what are the top 20 cities in the world by working age population.
Yeah, this is an impromptu. This is an impromptu, not impromptu. We're prepared always, but
Prepared is such a relative term.
That's right. If we got Dan's, watching Miss Rachel with the kids. I got cats running all over my kitchen, and we're just here to have a good time. I feel like I actually
rain or
this.
shine, baby.
Dude, I actually really missed this. I was really looking forward to this today. I think we chatted this morning, and it was like, I think we both had one of those mornings where me and Dan played golf yesterday, and we crushed it. Didn't win, but we crushed it.
No, we didn't.
We did not win.
We won in other ways.
That's right. We had a great
not on the scorecard.
We had a great time, but it affected our mornings this morning. And then this morning we both woke up a little bit delayed, and now we're just like ready to go. This is our first. Well, not really. Actually, been up since.
I like how we say delayed, and like people are going to assume that we mean like hungover, but we actually don't drink and didn't drink at all yesterday on the course.
Yeah, when I say delayed, I woke up at 5:45 instead of 5.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, no, honestly, this is a cool episode. I'm excited to dive into this. I'm going to be learning a lot myself here. And that's how we always do these episodes. So that's why this podcast is so cool, because we're learning along with you and diving into this and helping you get like tangible takeaways on how you can use this information and implement it. And we're diving into it like live, like real time, which I don't think is very common in a lot of podcasts.
No, yeah, it's definitely less scripted. Like you and I are kind of just trying to learn here. So let's talk a little bit about why it's even relevant that, like, what cities have the largest working age population. So let me quickly go through the list. So
wait.
Yeah.
Let's make it as simple as possible. What's working age population? Like people that are able to work?
Yeah. Yeah, so let's define working age population. This is people aged 25, so done post-secondary school, to 64, which would be when they are typically historically expected to retire. And so the cities that have the most of these people are typically economically active cities, right? And so, not to say that it has anything to do with real estate investing in a lot of these markets, because a lot of markets that we've talked about have very few people in working age. Like, the Italys of the world, Japan, where they're seeing demographic collapses. That's what allows them to have exceptionally cheap real estate. Most of the cities on this list are going to have real estate that is not so cheap. But there are some interesting ones here, because like Mexico City, as an example, is one that stands out to me. Mexico is such a place to watch, right? Where you've got this, it's like one of the biggest cities on earth. The country itself has a lot of young people, has a big working age population. I mean, to me, that is an indicator that you could see sustainable economic growth in a market like Mexico, as an example.
For sure. So a fun fact about Mexico City, I've honestly never been into Mexico City. I've been around it, which is a shame. I will make sure that I go this year. I'll do a podcast from Mexico City. But fun fact and I'd love for someone to fact check me on this, but I've heard that the temperature in Mexico City is so perfect year round that most like homes don't have air conditioning or heating, because it's just like perfect temperature all year round. It's elevate. Yeah. It's not like Mexico City is not like Quintana Roo, state of Quintana Roo, Cancun, Tulum, Playa del Carmen, where it's by the coastline, super muggy. It's actually, I think it's in the mountains, if I'm not mistaken, or at least around mountains. And because of that, apparently the temperature is like perfect year round. Fun fact.
Yeah, it's interesting because like we were talking about this on at the meetup the other day, the real estate meetup. So I host meetups in Canada. Like we have 27 meetups across the country in different cities across Canada, and this is something we're actually hoping to do with Real Estate Without Borders eventually, as the community grows, is host meetups like that around the world. But there was a guy who was there from Arizona in the Toronto real estate meetup, and we were talking about he used to live in California, and he was just saying like in Arizona, and this is another thing that you see in places like Dubai or Canada on the inverse. He's like Arizona and like Texas, in many cases Florida. It's like almost like the opposite of Canada, where in Canada like we have like those 6 months where you don't do anything because the weather's so crap to the downside because it's cold, and there, you have so many months of the year where it's too hot to do anything and people just kind of like stay in their house or like lounge by the pool or whatever. I was like, those are better, definitely better, like not doing anything things to do, right? Like if I'm not doing something, I'd rather be chilling by
Too
a
hot,
pool where it's too hot than chilling in my house because it's freezing outside and just watch, like doing nothing basically.
of course.
But it does make, there's actually like historically, there's been this thing where it's almost more productive where place has a more balanced climate
For sure.
because when it gets cold out, you can work right without getting too sweaty or whatever, so you can actually produce more. I thought that was kind of interesting.
For sure.
But anyway, to kind of finish that off, because I didn't finish my thought. California is like, if you look at this map of like areas on Earth with like livable climate, California has like the most days of like comfortable weather on Earth. I think it is. Yeah, so I don't know. I
I
just thought
just
that was
saw
kind
that
of,
on Dana White was just talking about that
yeah.
the weather there is just like literally perfect all the
What's
time.
that song with is it Kendrick and Dr. Dre? Women, Weed, and Weather.
No,
They're,
maybe
yeah,
I've heard it, but now I'm gonna have to listen to it obviously after my terrible workout this morning, but that's okay. Okay, so what's number one? We got number one on the list, Shanghai. So working age population is 18.4 million.
yeah. It's a
That's
lot of
crazy.
folks. Yeah.
Man, we gotta book a flight to Shanghai, dude. We talk about Shanghai all the time, and it's a shame that we've never been.
Well, I think it's like the biggest city in the world, most populous urban area most populous urban area in China. Biggest city in the world, I think, is Tokyo. Um, the port of Shanghai is the world's busiest container port.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's the spot, man. Like I think it's the highest GDP in the world for a city. It's just a powerhouse,
I
right?
know we're gonna probably get into this, but I'm just thinking like out loud. If these people have, like, say for example, we're talking about Shanghai. Shanghai has 18.4 million people that are working, right? I feel like because there's so many people that are working and earning income, that would just have a way more demand, a way higher demand to buy real estate, which would likely increase the real estate in those areas, but also like on both sides, on rental price and on sale price. I'm assuming, right? That'd be a fair assumption.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the the house prices in like places like Shanghai. Where else did we see? I think it was like Shanghai, Shenzhen, etc. Like they
Right.
saw like increases of like 60% year over year back in like 2015, 2016.
Right.
So they're like you do see that demand, but then China is also going through this issue where their demographics, like, they've fallen below the replacement rate. So the question is like, is it already at its peak of growth, right? Like if you were buying maybe 10, 15 years ago when it was still growing, you can catch that demographic growth. You'll have more demand for your rental properties, more buyers for your properties if you want to own them. The other thing with China especially is China has a really high home ownership rate. I think we did an
We
episode
did.
on countries by home ownership rate, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
China has a really high home ownership rate. So like it's not really a country where you see like an opportunity to invest. That's why we don't talk about it as much. It's not that we have any issues with China, because I do think China is like an incredible economic powerhouse. Obviously, the second biggest or first, depending on the metric, economy in the world. But it's not really a place where you can buy something and rent it out to a tenant, right? That's just not how the real estate market works there.
I'm actually in the middle of looking if Shanghai's. I'm kind of trying to see what Shanghai, if it's declining or if it's increasing the working age population, because like you just said, if this is on the decline, then in terms of investing, you've almost maybe missed the boat, right? Like, I don't know what the replacement rate is in Shanghai. I'm going to look that up as well. But if working age adults are the ones getting married, having kids, divorcing, relocating, whatever, each of those like life, even each of those life changes spark some form of like housing transaction most often, you know, whether it's a sale or a buy or a
Yeah.
rent, whatever. But I don't know. Oh, you got it pulled up there?
This is just their actual like house price growth chart to present day. You can see again like 2016, and this is really interesting. Like just to think about the way global capital flows work. If you look at Canada and the U.S., there was a huge increase in Chinese investment in Canada, especially Canada, like Vancouver, Toronto, but also in many cities in the U.S. In like 2016, 2017, because basically a lot of capital in China saw like this huge boom. So if you go back to like 2014, house prices grew like what 20? It says like in Shanghai 21%, almost
Wow.
22%, and then they dropped a little bit. So they had like a little bit of a blow off. So they came down, 5% in 2015. 2016, look at this. Shenzhen 62.5% price growth year over year. Yeah, Shanghai 30% price growth year over year in 2016 and almost into 2017. And so a lot of Chinese capital was like, oh, real estate is crazy. It can do, look at what it can do. Let's go buy it in other places because it's so expensive here. And then they started, you started to see huge Chinese capital flows into other major metropolitan areas around the world.
Right.
And Chinese capital plays a huge, huge role in global real estate markets, especially urban global real estate markets. And they would come to Vancouver as an example because Vancouver's it's a hotbed for Chinese real estate investment. And they would say, oh, house prices in Vancouver only went up 20%. That's
Right.
fine because in Shenzhen they went up 60%. So they're less rational buyers as well during those periods of time.
Interesting. Yeah, I got here. So the working age share, like in percentage, the peak, which for Shanghai, is that right? Is that what we're doing? Shanghai was 80% of residents in 2013. That was the peak of working age population. So 80% of the residents in 2013.
And
Latest reading, yeah, and now it's about 70.86%. That latest reading we have here was 2023, which is like a almost a 9% change. And the net migrant population, so the peak was 10.48 million. Latest reading 2024, 9.83. And their fertility rate, so Shanghai's total fertility rate just fell to 0.6 births per woman in 2023, which is like well below the replacement level.
Yeah.
And they got like let's see here, large cohorts born in the 1960s to 70s now crossing that 60, pushing the city's 60 plus share to 37% ish. Interesting.
Yeah, and so you're getting people aging out of the workforce, which is shrinking that working age population. And this is a theme that you're seeing in places all over the world, right? They're just earlier in it. So think about Japan, right? Think about Italy, and is China going to suffer the same fate? I mean, really, the only way that they could not suffer the same fate is by increasing their immigration, unless there's a way that they can increase their birth rate. But what happens is, as populations become more and more middle class or like wealthier and educated, they have less kids.
Right.
India is even going through the same thing. They just fell below the replacement rate.
India did.
Yeah.
Wow. Is
and
India
actually,
on
maybe
this?
we can jump down. Yeah. So the third city on the list. So we have Shanghai and Beijing. So 18 million working age population in Shanghai, 16.5 million working age population in Beijing. And then you go to Delhi, Gurugram in India.
Dude, you nailed that pronunciation.
Yeah. Been practicing.
Yeah.
Instead of affirmations in the mirror, that's what I do. Is I just read city names in the morning.
Before each episode, instead of saying how awesome we are and how much you're going to crush
New York. Unique New York.
Delhi Gurugram. Delhi Gurugram. What a name. What a handle.
Yeah. What is just Delhi, right? Like that's
what is the no, I'm going to go full name. Delhi Gurugram is my new fave. Why is it green, not red? I'm guessing that's some sort of measurement.
No, that's just the country. Like all the other ones, like all the China ones are red on the chart here. Yeah. And then India's green. It's just the color of the flag.
I thought it'd be something cooler.
No.
So they're what, 15.7, and you said that I'm going to put this here. Let's go.
Considered a mega city or union territory and a union territory. And
union territory.
Yeah, but it's the financial center of India, right? And a little bit more attached to, like, if you were going to look at financials, like global financial hubs, you look maybe like more to a Hong Kong than a Shanghai. I mean, Shanghai is obviously big, but if you're trying to compare it to like apples to the cities we just mentioned in China, Hong Kong has a lot more like British influence. It was part of the British Empire for a period of time. A lot of people speak English there. It's more of like that
Right.
global hub, whereas and India is very similar in that way because India was also part of the British Empire. They
Right.
had their own English dialect, like, and so Delhi's really evolving in that way. And you're seeing a lot of this happening with the U.S. Trade wars with China. A lot of U.S. companies now actually discussing potentially moving some of their manufacturing to India rather than China. And so my big thought is if you look at everything that happened in China over the last 10, 50, I mean, not even, this would be like 50 years, right? Where they
Right.
pulled billions of people, like a billion people out of poverty or out of the lower class and into the middle class, right? Like this was the largest wealth creation in history ever on earth. And look at what happened, right? Like China built these mega cities, Chinese capital started flowing everywhere. Some of the, you see, Chinese billionaires and international students at all the cool schools in Canada and the US and driving Lambos and all that stuff, right? Is India on deck to go through the same thing? This is one of the big thoughts from my perspective because, we're hearing, okay, China is below the replacement rate and further below the replacement rate then, and they have a demographic issue. India, less so. They just fell below the replacement rate. They still have a lot of people entering the working age population. And we're hearing about this thing called the demographic dividend in India, where basically young people get rewarded by an older economy, by entering an older economy, and they're contributing. And so the economy can continue to grow.
Sorry, I got my cat pulling on my stuff here, which is
It's
great. One sec. Good times, man. Yeah, can you grab the cat?
Yeah.
I got 3 cats, man. I got too many cats.
It's all right.
And I was
It's a
deep
big
into
rescue guy.
I just want to help everybody, including Mexican street kitties, but it doesn't always translate to how I want it to go. I now got to mix in some kids here eventually. Anyways, I was deep into learning about India. I knew none of that. That was deep. So the working age shares from India and in Delhi. Okay, working age is from 15 to 59 years. In 2010, it was 78.9%. 2020 or 2020, 68.5, which is a drop of 10%. Okay. Let's see. Old age dependency. Net migrant residents with peak was 10.5, down to 2020, 8.25. I don't have any new stuff here. But the ultra low fertility and late marriage norms keeping birth rates near record lows. I want to find out the replacement rate. Do you have that right there? Is that what you got pulled up?
No, I have the population pyramid though, and you can see like there's this huge concentration of people in the 10 to kind of like 30 range. So that's
Right.
like your young working age population. And this is again where like India still has growth in its economy kind of embedded there. It's tapering off because people are having fewer and fewer kids because the same thing that was happened in China is happening here, where basically people enter the middle class and have fewer kids.
Right. Rural to urban migration. I think
Huge thing in India right now.
Right.
That was a big thing that happened in China,
Right.
where people were coming out of the farms, moving into more like
Same with Africa, right?
urban
As the
settings.
last
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's happening all over the world, right? Is people were urbanizing, right? Something like I think they were saying like the estimate is by I think 2050, like 80% of the world's population will live in urban areas.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's saying that neighboring states are keeping the core working age cohort swelling even to like, but I'm trying to find the actual, let's see here, their replacement rate, but they're saying,
I think they're at 2.01 births per woman right now.
okay,
It's been a pretty steady decline. So here you can see China, the U.S., and India.
right,
And so 2.2 is replacement rate, right? Technically, because like based on mortality, et cetera, you have 2 parents, so they'd have to have 2 kids, or more than 2 kids,
right.
and then the 2.2 offsets the mortality rate because unfortunately people die.
People do die. That's crazy. What was it at the peak there? I can't see.
India, well, it
Yeah.
looks like in 19, what was that, like
Oh, in the
the
60s, they were
60,
partying.
63, they were 5.97, and during that period of time, China was 7.51 births per woman. That is crazy statistically.
I thought, am I wrong by, I thought the Chinese population, I thought they don't have a lot of women or something. What's the
Well,
rules
yeah,
on that?
because they don't. Yeah, they have a huge, like, I'll show you their population pyramid in a second. But basically, so when China had that peak there in 1963, then they had a little bit of a drop, and then thereafter they put in the thing called the one child policy.
That's right.
And then the one child policy is this is kind of morbid and sad, but basically, people, they would get the like the sonogram or whatever, and they would elect to have only male children, right?
Right.
Because people wanted somebody to carry on the family legacy, and so there weren't a lot of, like, people were just not having female babies, right? They would only have the male babies.
You know what? I know
And they have a
this
huge
is
skew. I think they have like 100 million excess men. I'll pull up the population pyramid, but it is wild to see.
that's kind of like Arizona when you go out to Arizona. Arizona is like when you go out to. I did a golf trip in Arizona, and it was just a bunch of golf dudes, and I feel like I can relate to that. But anyways, I that's super super interesting. I've actually had 4 clients in the last probably like 6 months that were from India, have purchased properties here in Toronto, now selling and moving back to India.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too.
Which is interesting. Like, it's actually super super common right now, which is kind of crazy. But is this China? Is it the Chinese? Or so when did this kick
this is
in?
China's population pyramid. Yeah, we have excess men in Canada too, which is interesting. There's surplus males in the Canadian population because more and more people who are migrating from some of these countries tend to be male.
Right.
But yeah, so the one child policy happened around that same period of time that I mentioned in China. I think it was 1972. Yeah.
1972 is when they introduced. Well, they were at 7 kids. I think that's I mean, that's a crazy thing to do, but 7 kids per woman that's crazy.
So it was 79 to 2015. So it didn't even and it ends up being like the biggest shot in the foot, right? Because now if you look at their population pyramid here, I mean, they literally just hit peak population. Like, you can see it here. 2020, they would have been.
Wow.
Now their population without any changes is just going to be falling, right? And there's also speculation that I mean, the population reads at 1.4 billion, but apparently it's closer to 900 million. That's what I can't remember if they came out and said that or somebody had done some analysis. But I mean, look at here. Their population is basically going to fall from 1.4 billion to 630 million by 2100. If you compare that to like an India of the world, or maybe we'll use Mexico as well, because we'll segue over to Mexico City. But if you look at India, like, their population isn't expected to peak until 2065, right? 2060 ish at 1.7 billion people. And then even when it starts falling, it's not going to be as steep of a drop.
When does the decline start here?
It starts in about 2060, it looks like.
Wow.
In India, it's when the population will start declining.
What was I know make you go back, but what was it for China? When did it start to decline in China?
Like this year, or like the last couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Toss in Mexico City or Mexico.
Yeah, I'll go to Mexico. So see that the curve barely changed, right? So Mexico, same thing. It's going to grow until about 2060. So these are, from my perspective, I don't want to be buying into a real estate market where the population might, like, if I'm an investor or a realtor who's trying to trade in these markets, I want a market that's growing, where there's more people I can sell to, more people I can rent to, whatever, right? And I can do that in India or in Mexico. I can't do that in China right now. And unless something changes in their demographics, which could, right? Like, China could run a huge immigration program, or have a 2-child policy where they make people have kids or whatever.
Right.
I mean, they're a relatively authoritarian country, and so they can do stuff like that, right? Like, one time they had that huge snowfall, they literally made everybody go shovel all the snow, right?
Crazy. Canada would never happen.
Right.
Wait, toss Canada in that for a second. I'm just curious.
Well, yeah.
This is just selfish for our Canadian listeners.
And this is why people like Canadian real estate, because it's straight up, but that all relies on immigration, right? Like, we have one of the lower birth rates in the world. Canada's birth rate's like 0.7, I think. I think only like Korea is lower than us, and we just hit a record low birth rate in Canada. Like, we've never had fewer births per women in Canada, but our population growth curve looks straight up like that because
just a rocket ship.
Because our population is growing significantly from immigration, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's another thing, right? Like, you look at the countries where you are seeing a lot of immigration. We had a guy on here from Australia. They have a very similar immigration policy to Canada in that.
Toss Australia in there just for funsies while
Yeah.
we're at it. We could do this all day, dude. We should have done a whole episode just on, let's just search every cool city.
Dave looks at population pyramids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's even more of a rocket ship.
Wow. And maybe I always thought Australia had these crazy immigration policies. Am I wrong?
No, they dropped theirs. Even the U.S. here, you can see the U.S.
too,
basically
yeah.
the growth kind of starts slowing in 2030, right?
Where are we right
Still
now?
pretty steady. Right now we're, what is that, like 350 million, 345 million, and it should be, they say it's going to hit, and this is again because the U.S. I don't know if China could do this. Like, I'm not to say that they can't, but the U.S. is a compelling place for people to migrate, right? Everybody wants to go there in search of the American dream. It's like,
right.
It's this thing, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger in his book talks about when he was a kid in Austria, wanted to move to California.
That's right.
To, become famous. Like, that was a thing, right? People are always like, what's the strength of the US dollar? And some people will show, like, post videos on Twitter of, like, the military, like, cruising around. Like, yeah. But to me, what really makes the US dollar the global reserve currency is America's Got Talent being the biggest stage in the world. You know what I mean? It's 90 Day Fiance, TV shows built about people want, like, you know what I mean? Like, that to me, the promise of everybody, the fact that somehow they've created this brand. It's a brand, man. That's like, that is what makes the US dollar and the US market so strong, is the fact that everybody in the world wants to move there. Could China do that? Could they make it compelling? Probably. Right? Like, I mean, my daughter talks about China, wanting to travel, visit China and stuff like that a lot too.
Yeah. You got daddy to just toss up the other chart there, or the chart there, original one who was next on the list? Because I think we left off at Shanghai, Delhi. Next we got China. So Guangzhou and Shenzhen. We talked about these guys quite a bit, and then 15.6 and 15.5. I'm actually super curious about New York, because I know that New York, well, obviously we're just talking about the U.S. and making, U.S. a place that people want to immigrate to, which is cool. Oh yeah, bring them up for an episode on the pod, man. It's overdue. We got Remy on a pod episode. Not bad. I was just drilling. I was just giving everybody the numbers. We kind of covered China with, well, I mean, it's number 1, 2, 4, and 5 on this list with the highest working age population. And then the first, other than China and India, we have New York Metro, which makes sense to me, and I think the cool thing about this, what we've talked about in other episodes as well, is like, more than, like, I think New York is or at least the area around New York, the real estate's doing decent because everyone's getting called back into work, right? Like, that whole work from home model is kind of not out the window, obviously, but it's becoming less and less of a thing, and we're getting called back to work. And then obviously that's going to increase the working age population in places like New York, which is really cool.
Yeah, you're actually seeing like a reversal of a lot of the trends that we saw during COVID, when like, everybody was moving out of California, out of New York, into like Florida, Texas, etc. Now you're seeing the opposite. All of those markets are seeing declines in prices, and the New Yorks of the world and Florida and New York is succeeding, right? California is actually seeing some growth.
Yeah.
And
Texas shrinking.
Yeah, Texas is, and a lot of it's they overbuilt, right? In Florida, prices are shrinking, and then a lot of your, like, the big trade hubs are taking off again. So it's almost like a re-urbanization of the workforce from in like the opposite of that big COVID trend when everybody was going work from home and just moving to the Sun Belt, right?
Right. Yeah, interesting.
For sure.
And then you had...
Yeah. The next one, I guess, is Sao Paulo, Brazil, which is an interesting one from my perspective. I think Sao Paulo and Mexico City, like, to me,
I agree.
South America and Central America are really, really places to watch. Like, they are still having births. They are still emerging markets. They are still seeing population growth. They're close geographically to, and becoming super popular markets for the retirement, like, to capture that retirement. Like, everybody talks about Italy and, a lot of these cheap markets in Europe. But the truth is, like, it's so hard for somebody who still has a life in the US or Canada to, casually commute to Italy as like their vacation spot, right? It's a long flight. It's a completely different time zone. They're not going to be able to have calls with their business or kids or whatever, right? So you're seeing a lot of people kind of pushing into Costa Rica's of the world, South America. Brazil's a big one.
Right.
Mexico, obviously, Dave, don't need to pitch you on that one. But so Sao Paulo and Mexico City are interesting to me.
Yeah, and they're so at the peak of their, well, not the peak, but their replacement rate went from like 1.59. It's been hovering around like 1.59, 1.77, 1. Let's see here. 2003 was actually the high, 2.11. Let's see here. In 2018, went to 1.77. It's expected to continue, but around that trend. It's still significantly higher than other places, which is interesting. And like Brazil's declining fertility rate is a significant demographic trend, like especially in urban areas like Sao Paulo, you know. But that brings us back to that same point that we just talked about, which is, you know, factors such as like urbanization, you know, economic pressures and access to family planning, which is people coming from those rural areas and then bringing them back into the city core. I think it's just going to happen, like you said. The urbanization is going to happen all over the world. I was just talking to myself about how the same kind of thing.
I was excited to hear how your monologue went while I stepped away from the computer.
Just panicking. No, I was just talking about the same thing. How Brazil, it looks like it's kind of doing the same thing as, you know, like we just talked about that urbanization of cities, right? That same thing is happening in Brazil, but it looks like there's a decline in the fertility rates in a lot of Latin America, including Brazil, but still significantly higher than anywhere over here in like Canada, US.
Yeah.
Was this, pull that up. What is this here?
Yeah, it looks like their population is expected to peak around like 2040, 2045. So soon, right? And Brazil's population is like 200 mil. So it's about like 2/3 of the US. So yeah, I mean, but not as steep of a decline, right?
Right.
Dropped to 163 million by 2100.
Right. What's after Brazil?
Mexico.
What do you? No, we had no. Mexico was first, I think. No, are we not number one, baby? Let's see.
No, you had Sao Paulo, Brazil,
right.
Mexico City,
Yeah.
and then another city in India. Then you have Manila in the Philippines, Buenos Aires,
Argentina,
which is Argentina, yeah. Mumbai, Tokyo, LA, Paris, Seoul, London, Bogota, Colombia.
Bogota.
Yeah, and then Chicago and Dallas, Fort Worth.
Interesting, Bogota. I didn't think that'd be on there. 6.3 million working age.
Very.
I think it's cool. Like this is important stuff to know, and it's really cool because I don't think anyone's talking about this stuff. But like the cool thing is, honestly, like learning on the fly about these cities, and if you're an investor or even if you're a realtor listening to this and you're looking at providing value to your clients, like genuinely understanding, like would this be micro or macroeconomics? You tell me.
It's a little bit of both, right? So it's macro in such that, you know, it's, you want to compare things in a global context, but it's micro in such that you're analyzing each little market individually. And just like to like really, really drive home why this is relevant to real estate, like this report that we pulled from Visual Capitalist the data they had came from this thing called Global Tech Talent Guidebook, which was put out by CBRE Research. CBRE is the biggest commercial real estate brokerage in the world, right? So, and they put this out because they want to show people the different markets and like what the unemployment rates are there, right? Where companies who are thinking about moving to urban areas to build technology should be looking, right? They use this as a tool to attract tech companies who are going to be leasing offices, and they want to show them which markets they should be looking in. So they have things like the unemployment rate by market in different cities across the world, which is crazy to see. Some of these, you know, Warsaw, Poland is the lowest. And then we got Brussels in Belgium, which
highest
is the highest.
unemployment. Interesting. And lowest is Poland.
Yeah. But you look at like a lot of those countries where we were talking about, you know, they're using immigration to try and grow their population, or they're seeing demographic collapses already. Brussels,
right.
Santiago is a little different. But then you have Madrid, Bogota, Helsinki, Barcelona. These are the highest unemployment rates. Mumbai. Then they have global working age population share of overall population over time. So it's basically peaked in 2012. So we're now in an aging world.
Right.
They saw it kind of start ticking up in 2020, I guess, with the COVID baby boom, right?
What's that? Yeah, that's the thing to understand, like because I think not all listeners to this are going to be experts in micro and macroeconomics. Okay. And the reason behind these podcast episodes is to give you some like high level context as to what's happening globally, because I didn't really factor this into my own career for realtors. This is for realtors. If you're a realtor listening, I didn't factor these things into my career until I moved to Mexico and really understood how the entire world was connected and how certain trends, brought back information to how you can sell real estate in wherever you are, right? So it's super cool to take a look at like a very high level of what's happening globally, and utilize that information to bring that value to your clients, to just go above and beyond and just be that much better of a realtor. You don't need to be an economics major from Harvard University to be able to deliver this information to your clients to actually provide value. Then that's the cool thing about this podcast that I love, because honestly, I do learn a lot on these podcasts. But for the listeners here, like, what an opportunity to be to dive into this, because I can guarantee you that you're not going to go through this CBRE report, but we did for you. We've done that for you so that you can analyze the information that CBRE, which is like, is it the biggest commercial?
Yeah, biggest commercial real estate company in the world.
They're smarter than us, and I'm not going to go and try to compete with CBRE, but what I can
used to
do,
work there actually.
See, well, not smarter than Dan, obviously. Dan is CBRE. But the cool thing is we're giving you the tools to just be more educated on global context and a global scale, because it is all connected, and being able to provide these little pieces of information to your client to tie it all into like real estate investments, you're just going to be so much further ahead, in my opinion. So you're welcome, is what I'm getting at. Me and Foch are battling through this episode. I got cats chewing on my wires. Dan's got 16 kids.
Yeah, I just realized that I'm like not even using my my proper mic either, so that's why it's like picking up all the background noise. So this is gonna be a fun one to edit all the crap out of. But anyway, we'll figure it out.
Sorry, buddy. Hey, you know what? We did it. We're here. It sounds like birds are
Worst
chirping.
case is bad. You can hear the birds too. I didn't have my pod mic going, so I apologize to anybody who's having a hard time with this one. No. We did too. Okay.
Yeah.
But we'll make the next one better.
We're here. We're just trying to give you all the information without missing any sort of days for you guys. And today we fought through it. Warriors. But it's it.
100%. Unreal. All right, man. Well, see you next week, everyone.
Thanks for listening, everybody.